So in this demo, we are going to expand upon a previous one, add some JavaScript to it to figure out, well, which of the calcite actions did we actually click on in that. And so I was actually in here doing some cleanup. I was missing some ending tags and stuff like that. So the more you do the calcite stuff, the more you'll get better at creating clean files in that. I was going to do Alt Shift on F on this. Alt Shift F. No, nothing moved. Good. In that. So we do have a calcite shell. Okay, just to collapse that, and I do have a script here that's going to get hooked into as well. I do like to have my HTML first and my script second. In that, I'm not sure if it matters, but I do like that. So I have a heading 2 tag. I'll make it a 1 tag. I'm okay with the H1 tag in here. So I'll just clean this up. In that, clean up my ending tag as well. And so that should show up in the header of the shell. I have a calcite panel that's going to go in panel start over on the left. Inside it is going to be calcite action bar. And that action bar basically will have a bunch of actions in it, just like before. But this time we're going to using the data attribute concept. Well, which one did you click on? Who'd you click on, basically? I also have here a div for a map. I'm not going to have a map in this particular demo, but just trying to get a pattern or a template ready, for future ones in that. And because I don't say what slot it's in, it's going to be in that center slot called default of the shell in that. So this is where indentation might save your life. Like I said, right, that this div is inside the shell. This H1 tag is inside the shell, but in the header slot. This calcite panel is inside the shell in the panel start. And this calcite action bar, just by nesting, is inside the panel in that. We don't say a slot. No, we do say slot here, that it's the action bar part of the panel in that. So whose slot is this? Well, who are you inside? Calcite shell. So this takes some getting used to, the slot concept, but the more you immerse yourself into it, the easier it is to follow. We do have a main.js in that. We don't have much in terms of styles because we're not doing anything yet in that. So we do have definition of a variable in JavaScript, active widget ID in that. We're also, I wonder if I should change that. I'll leave it for now, how should we do the camel case kind of concept. We have this action, this handler, handle the action bar being clicked on is one way to read that. I'm just going to collapse that. So we want to know, well, which button was clicked on, right? And this will make more sense once we fire up the app. And so we have a handler which will try to figure out, well, who was that in that? And then there's a hook. You got to, we have to go find the calcite action bar, right? And hook into it when someone clicks on it, right? So this is us adding what's called an event listener in that. And the event we're listening for is someone doing a left click, right? In that. So someone using the left mouse button to click on this element called calcite action bar. Who is that? We're hunting this down by name in that. So we should go over here just so we know how that's being handled. Actually, I might have fibbed there. We're not hunting this down by an attribute called name in between this tag, like we have slot. There's nothing called name here. We're hunting it down by the name of the element. So we're hunting it down by this part here. Okay, in that. So we'd have to go back to main. We're looking for calcite action bar in that. I highlighted calcite action shell. No, not that one. Calcite action bar, right? So wherever this exists on the screen, it's a little rectangle, right? If the left mouse button comes in and does a click, then our code's going to get triggered, right? And that. And so if they click on the header, nothing should happen, right? It's only if they click on the action bar that's inside this panel in that. And if we expand this now, there's a little bit of code to just log out the target. So who got clicked on and that sort of thing in that. There is this thing about things bubbling in and bubbling out in that in the order. I'm not going to talk too much about that. but we might see people getting clicked on, right? Uh, in that. And if the target name is a calcite action, okay, so what does that mean, right? So if you, right, even inside the action bar, you would need to be click on one of these guys, right? And that's going to be those little icons in that. So we'll see stuff where we click on the header. We'll see things where we clicked on the action bar. We didn't actually click on one of the icons. We'll have to look at the console because all that's being done through logging out here with these lines here. Okay, so it's like these types of statements can help you debug what's going on and that sort of thing. So one is that one restriction is that only if you click on the action bar, potentially, we'll see, will this code run. And even then, because of this restriction here, that yeah, there's lots of targets, but the target has to be one of these little icons that get highlighted with the blue rectangle and the darker background in that. And this is some code just for readability. This is where they're trying to track the active widget so they know to close one down and open one up. We'll see that later on in that. But we're using these console logs and console dir statements to figure out who got clicked on or what got clicked on in that. So let's fire it up, npm scripts. We'll get this going. I'm not sure which one will it pop on. This is a good question. Who's going to pop on? I'll see where it pops in that. Probably popped off screen. No, it's not ready yet. A couple of seconds, it'll pop up somewhere on one of my other screens, and I'll slide it over. Where are you? Oh, okay, it appeared over here. So let's get over here. I'll drag it over. And so we see our mod 6 demo 2, who was clicked in that. Now, one thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to maximize this, and I'm immediately going to go over here and turn on the inspect, and so that we can get to console.log in that. There's a couple things that'll help you understand this demo. Definitely console.log. Will some messages show up here? I haven't started clicking yet, so there's nothing. But also the elements in that. And so when we expand this, remember that we are looking calcite shell, sort of, and that will expand this. Calcite shell is pretty big right now, I would say, in that. And then calcite shell panel, right, a little bit smaller, and the calcite action bar. Okay, so there's the thing we're looking for. If I can do that again, you can see there highlighted in blue the calcite action bar. That's why it's get used to using the debugger that's built into the browsers and that. So what we're after is like our code is hooked into someone clicking on that blue area. Okay, and so I'm going to put the console forward here, and I'm going to go click on the collapse. Now we did get a hit where someone clicked on the calcite action bar. Okay, so we got a hit on a target that we did click in this area. And again, now if I go back here, see how the blue is bigger because it's expanded. That's the action bar. And then we can also look at people clicking up in here. We'll get a hit if I click in this area because it's just to go back to elements and clicking anywhere in this rectangle that's currently in blue on my screen. Hopefully it's blue for you. So if we do a left mouse button click in this rectangle, right? And this is one thing as a developer and trying to, when you're trying to get all this stuff to work, is the web page is just a collection of rectangles, and sometimes they're nested, sometimes they're overlapping, and it's you left clicking, right clicking, dragging, dropping, doing actions on these rectangles that tie into some code in that. So we had a click when we hit collapse. Do we get a click when we click here? We should, right? Calcite action bar and that. But when we click here, there's this drill down that the browser does is it keeps drilling down, looking for the smallest target, like the leaf target. So what you might notice is that we're not going to get calcite action bar clicked on now, right? We got calcite action, right? The current widget is layers in that. Hey, how come it doesn't say war layers? Let's go take a look at our code, right? In that. War layers is the text that's going to show up on the screen. Its name inside is based on the ID, this action ID. That's why we're seeing the word layers show up in that. So I'll minimize this. And so we can track, now we can kind of determine who got clicked. Base maps got clicked. uh, right? Base master was the old one. Bookmark is a current widget. Information is now the current widget. But we're tracking who the last one was in case you need to close them, and the new one that would have to open up in that. So let's go take a look a little bit at the JavaScript code that does that. Okay, so again, our script gets called here. I'm just close the collapse the shell. This is where we hook in our code. Our code then hooks right back into the interface here and says, hey, go find this thing called the calcite action bar and add a click listener to it. And this is my click listener above. Handle action bar click. So when someone clicks on that. And so then this is where we're always saying, hey, what'd you click on? Did you click on the action bar or one of the actions in that? One is, this is if it's ever default, like when it first opens up and you click, no one will be set. We then make sure that we're restricting only if you're a calcite action do we care to do anything. And this is where we grab the action ID. Now, I put it in the, I added some comments in here because HTML data attributes for elements. So HTML data attributes on an element, it's part of the HTML standard. Okay. And so where do we see that in the index? If I expand this a little bit, this is where we see it. Data hyphen. Anything that comes after this gets organized in JavaScript in this thing called data set. So let's go back and look in that. So there, all of those data hyphens get organized, right, into this thing called .data set, right? So target.data set. So here it is, target. What was the smallest chunk of HTML that you clicked on that we know of? And so that's the target who received the click. Their data set is a property they have, will be a list of all of the data hyphen attributes that you set up. Now you don't see the data hyphen, you see everything after that. Action ID. The big thing is to notice that the action ID is auto-magically, right, converted to action camel case ID, the small d. And so this is all built into the browser. It's all built into the JavaScript HTML spec and the DOM spec, document object model, of how this is going to happen. So one is to start adopting or getting used to this. When I'm in HTML, right, it's a lot of hyphens and cascading style sheets. So data hyphen action hyphen ID. Anything that starts with data hyphen is going to be added to the data set property on the JavaScript side. It'll be called, and what it will be called will be based on this, right? So the hyphen goes away and the I gets capitalized, action ID. This is all built into the language. So the best thing to do on this in here, use hyphens, always lowercase, okay? So use hyphens to separate words, keep everything lowercase in that. And then you can expect on the other side that the hyphens will go away and you'll get a camel case version of it where the first letter is in uppercase in that. And again, the data hyphen goes away and it's known on the JavaScript side, you hunt them down in this thing called data set. That's where all the data hyphens are going to be, minus their data hyphens with their names like translated on the fly to camel case in that. And so once you start to become aware of these standards and how this is how it's going to happen, you can start to leverage these element attributes, extended data attributes to help you with your app development, right? Because the key thing is, okay, they clicked on an action, a button, right, or an icon. Which one was it, right? And so then you'll have different code fire off in that. So that's about all I want to cover in this demo. Was this concept of the data attributes, how they get organized into this data set, how you can go to the target to find out, I guess, who got clicked on, look in their data set property here, right, and get their action ID, which would be the name of the icon. So it's one way to use, you can use these a lot of different ways. It's one way to use these built-in data attributes to figure out, okay, something got clicked on, who got clicked on. And then from there, what code should now run. Okay, so that concludes this demo.